on the face.
Hey everybody, happy Tuesday. Welcome back to the OTH vlog. Hope you had a great Memorial Day weekend. We had a lot of wind out there, as you can see from the little teaser. It was great seeing some familiar faces and being back at the beach and helping people out. Even though if we can only do rentals, it was still a good time seeing everybody and hanging out at the beach. While we were out there, we got to see some old friends and get some fresh new ideas for videos. So this one comes from one of our former students, Patrick. Patrick came up with this idea of going over bar maintenance and bar tuning, which is great. This is something that a lot of people ask questions for, and I can definitely help out with this video and giving you some very broad tips of how to tackle bar adjustments and tuning. So let's just start off with the easy one of bar maintenance. Just rinse your lines after every use. That's pretty much it, really. Like just making sure that they're clean, free of sand, and just keeping them away from the sunlight. The protective coating that's on them when they first come out brand new, as that starts to wear down, then your lines become more to fraying or something like that that could damage the lines in the long run. So just rinsing your bar is going to be a huge thing. Could get that salt water and sand off. Now for actual tuning tips, I have some videos for you that you can take a look at, and these are going to be a kind of a broad overview of what you should be looking at as far as tuning and how to adjust your lines and how to set your bar up to tune them. Going through specifically tuning techniques on the duotone truss bar, but these techniques can be used across all bars as they all have some kind of form of adjustment. Going through certain tools to be using that'll be very helpful when making your adjustments or adding lines or taking parts off the bar or putting them back on. And then going over pigtails and how you can use those as quick fixes when you're out there on the beach. So yeah, so take a look at these and we'll discuss a little bit further.
So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to walk your lines all the way out as if you're attaching them to the kite. And you're going to put the ends of the pigtails to a fixed point, either a nail or a screw like I have here. And that way when you pull your lines back, you can have some tension at the ends to see where you might have slack. Once you're at the bar, you're going to pull your lines all the way back, and if it's fully adjusted, you should have straight lines like I do here with no sag. Common mistake that most people have when pulling their lines back is they have the bar depowered like I do here. You're going to make sure that you're going to pull your depower line so it's all the way extended. Basically, the bar should be fully powered with the bar all the way in and your depower line pulled all the way out. That way you can make your final check and adjustment. And again, say here, all the lines are straight back, the bar is flat when pulled all the way in, and everything's nice and straight. Okay? Again, double checking to make sure there's no slack there. If you have a slacked line like I do here on the right side, you can see that I have tension in the left, but quite a bit of saggage on this right end. You can make adjustments sometimes within the bar or not along the bar. With the truss bar here, I actually have adjustments on the inside. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up this little side post, and once I get this open, you're going to see there's several different knots with color coding on them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull it in and put it to that first red knot to see if there's any tension that will be added. You can see there's a little bite right there to put the knot into to allow you to lock it in place. If I let it out, the lines go out. So here's where you make your fine tuning. You can put it a little about 1.5 inch increments. I'm going to set it on that red one. I'm going to put it back inside, tuck everything away, and once I get all that inside the tubing, you can put that little kind of cap back on, get it locked in place, and when I pull tension again, everything's straightened out. So that's a quick, easy way to fix if a line has been stretched or shrinking. And once I got it all in there, we're looking good to go. Now we're going to look at some tools that we have here that are going to help you out. First off, a fin key. This is the same fin key that comes with the duotone fins as well as comes with the click bar. It's just a little Allen key, and that is very useful for taking things apart, such as your quick release setup or parts of the click bar, or even some other bars have little screws or something right by your quick release. Good thing to have. An upgrade to that would just be getting an Allen key set. That way if you need to make any adjustments to larger Allen keys, or even kind of just using this as a way to pry into things. Some other bar systems have different sizes. Good thing to have. Needle nose pliers, awesome little thing to have. That way if you need to hold on to something while you're threading a line through, if you're pulling something apart, that is very useful, especially for getting into small spaces and pulling something out. Actually, with the needle nose, this little guy is probably the most useful thing that you can ever have with line and bar repair. It's just basically a hook at the end of some filament line, and you can adjust or pull through little small spaces with the end of the filament. You just hook the line at the hook there, and then you take the free end and kind of thread it through some tubing or whatever you may be pulling through, and just feed the line right through it. This thing is super, super useful and makes threading lines through something really, really easy. So highly recommend using something like this. If you don't have this around, you can actually just use fishing line. I've used that before, and that works just as well, just tying a pair of fishing line to the end of the line and pulling it through. And then a Phillips head screwdriver, especially a small one like this, just getting out little screws. Again, all different bars have different screws throughout their quick release or even in the bar itself, so having a small Phillips will be useful. And you can also use a little tool that I have here. This is actually for yo-yos, but it's a knot detire. It's just got a point at the end of it that you can shove into a knot and get it undone. It's very useful, especially when you've got a bar that's a little older and you need to push it into something and pull it out. That is very useful. For example, here, I'm just going to take this knot and show you. I'm going to press the poke end into the heart of the knot and just grab onto it and very easily pull it undone. So super, super useful for getting knots undone. Having something like this around, highly recommend picking one up, or even just a little pick set. Now I'm going to talk about some knots that are going to be very useful to know when it comes to doing bar repairs. The first one is a really simple one that you'll see quite often, especially for ends of pigtails like I have here, or when you have line segments that you need to put on, such as like your lines to your leader lines, or maybe even extensions. So basically it's just two loops that you feed through each other. You can see here on each side, and it's really easy to come undone. So this knot is super useful. All it took was a little bit of pushing on each end to get it free, and taking it apart is just pulling one end out of the loop and getting the other end free. Now putting this one back together is super easy. You're going to take the shorter end, in this case this is the pigtail, and you're going to open up the bottom loop of the pigtail. If it was the shorter line for an extension, you'd open that one up. You're going to feed the longer line through that little loop that you just created, and now you're going to take the end of the pigtail or your shorter line and you're going to feed it through the loop of the longer line. Okay, and once you get it fed through that loop, all you need to do to put it back together is to provide a little bit of tension. So I'm going to pull it through here. As I pull, you'll see it just locks it right in place, just like that. Very useful knot to know, very easy to get undone, very easy to put back together, and it's going to be something you're going to see a lot on all different brands. And you can see, just pull it right apart and then pull it back together. Another one you're going to see quite often, especially when you have metal parts, such as your safety line attachment for your leash. This one is very useful. So it looks kind of confusing at first, but really easy. All you're going to do is you're going to start kind of pushing away at the bottom of the knot. This is going to start to free that loop, open it up. As that loop starts to open, you're just going to take the loop itself at the end, you're going to open it up with your fingers, and you're going to pass that metal piece or whatever ring you may have or part, and you're going to just push it right through. Just that easy. And you'll see now the line pulls right through. Easy. To put it back together, you're going to take your metal piece at the end here, you're going to feed the line through it, the loop. You're going to open up the loop at the top of the line, and you're just going to feed the metal right back through that loop. Super easy. And then you're just going to pull it tight. That's going to secure that in place, and that is a really useful one. Again, you'll see that one quite a bit for the safety right here, and also if you have like a high Y, you'll have something like that as well, but a really useful one to know when coming to doing bar repair and maintenance. And finally, if you're ever in a bind, it's always helpful to have a set of universal pigtails in your kite bag. These can make really quick adjustments and are really useful, They have all kinds of these things. Like this one here has a knot at one end with a loop and then a loop at the other. You can just add that in to the end of your pigtail or the line itself, and it kind of makes it so you can either attach something like the end of the kite, or you need to add a little extension for a little bit of stretch. That's a good one to have. This one here is also a really good one to have. You have multiple knots for doing small adjustments. Again, if a line stretches or you have a different kite setup, this one's a great one to get you tuned in. And another version of this one here, just with 2 loops at the end with a little black tag to help you untie it at the end. Really useful for making any adjustments or just setting up for a different kite that you have for the day. Getting a pack of these, super cheap, and just a great thing to have with you on the beach because you never know when you may need them.
All right, so I hope those videos were helpful in discussing how to tackle a bar tuning or bar maintenance or adding parts to the bar. If you have any more specific questions, you can come to us on the beach and I can help you out with anything you have. They're super easy most of the time. It takes a few minutes of just taking the line off, putting it back on. Now, if some bar is completely rat's nested or lines are super stretched out, you may need to order parts or might need to actually get a new bar in some cases. I have one more tip for you before you go into tackling any type of bar tuning or bar fix or maintenance is do not, I repeat, do not cut lines. Unless you know how to splice lines, never ever cut lines off a bar that you are fixing. It is just going to cost you money in the long run, and it is never helpful. It's retying lines is never going to really work out that well for you unless you know how to tune something, or sorry, how to splice. Just a quick story, we had a student one time, he had an issue with a line and it had a rat's nest, and instead of untangling everything, he sheared everything off, and I mean everything, and gave me just the bar. Those lines are they are the price point of the bar. That bar is just carbon fiber or metal tubing. That is nothing else with some floats to it. That's the cheaper side. Those lines, when you buy them individually, cost way more than just buying a brand new bar outright. So big tip there, never cut lines, okay? Huge one. Other than that, Patrick, thanks for the idea for the video, and we look forward to more submissions or more tips or ideas out there on the beach. So yeah, go ahead and pass them along. We're stoked to get those out to you, and hopefully you enjoyed this video and find it helpful. Again, if you have any questions, go ahead and reach out to us on our website or even find me on the beach, and I'd be sure to help you out. All right, everybody, have a good rest of your week. We'll see you here on Thursday, and happy kiting, everybody.
Hey everybody, Chip Ripperson here. If you like that video, be sure to subscribe to our channel. That way you'll be notified every time we post new videos like this one. And if you want to see more videos that are already on the channel, be sure to click right here for more of our pro rider interviews, gear reviews, and more vlog posts. Happy kiting, everybody. Ew!